to know from your side, what are you most proud of when it comes to the foundation and what it's now become, and knowing how much it means to all these other people?
And we're teaching our kids that loving other people is the single most important thing. And they know, both of our kids, they know. Um, and the families that we help are so thankful. And it doesn't have to be 3,000 families or 5,000 families or 10,000 families. I will never forget. So I do run charitable foundations for a living. I've been in the sports field about 20. I've been in a long time.
Good catch, baby.
Veteran,
Veteran.
veteran.
Veteran. I've been doing it a while. Don't let our 4-year-old aged son fool you. I am older than you think. And I will never forget Mike Peterson, who played for the Jags at the time, went to Atlanta. He is from the Gainesville area, and he's an Alachua. He's an Alachua boy. Mike and Chantal are spectacular. Mike was a client at the time, and they were good friends of ours, and became good friends of ours through their foundation. And I remember the very first meeting I had at Mike's house with Mike and Chantal, and we sat down, and they were introduced to me, and the first question I asked was, listen, I get that everybody wants to talk about all this other stuff. Mike, I just want to know, like, tell me what you want to do. Like, give it to me in whatever vernacular works for you. Just it doesn't have to be tied up with a bow. What do you want to do? And he said, I think what I've been doing is not impactful enough. And Michelle, the problem is what I've been doing is this reading program in Jacksonville in Duval County, and I think it reaches 3,500 kids. I've not met a single one of those kids. Like, not one-on-one. I don't have relationships with those kids. I don't have numbers and statistics. I don't know what's happening. From that day, we created something called the Top Dog Readers Club program. We partnered with a school in inner city Atlanta when he moved to Atlanta. And the Falcons were incredibly supportive, and we created a reading program that was tied in with an existing reading program at that school, and statistically measurable every single month. The kids were tested on the books they were reading. There were awards for the kids that passed the test for the greatest number of books. We sent the winner every month from every classroom to the Falcons games. Mike knew those kids. I will never forget this, one of the little girls at that school, her dad had already died in a gang-related incident years before that. I think she was 10, and we had just been to school, and the principal, who became a dear friend of ours, came up to us before we left, and she said, her mom died this morning. She doesn't know, so make today really special for her. Mike and Chantal spent that day with her, and I am not kidding you when I tell you we spent months with Mike and Chantal trying to adopt her. Knew her story. That I learned that day, that is what we have done really well with the foundation. We have to pump the brakes a lot because I want to help everyone.
No.
She
No,
does.
I want to help everyone.
The heart, but we have to remember we still have a family too. She's done well.
And so when we established the foundation, we established a board, and Paul and I prayed about what we really wanted from the board, and we wanted them to hold us accountable, first and foremost to Jesus, and secondly, to what the mission of the foundation was, which was through Jesus. And it was so simple for me and for Paul. Lend a helping hand, provide hope, heal hearts. And we knew that from day one. That's been our mission statement since 2009 when we initially filed the paperwork. It has changed, tweaked a tiny bit because I had one of the words wrong. The initial mission statement said, for God. And I actually did a blog post. I remember talking to Dowd one day, and we were doing like a Bible study reading thing together. And at some point during that conversation with her, I'm like, God doesn't need anything from us. We're not doing, he's not waiting for me to do
It's
something.
not one of the text messages you got. It's not. Jesus did not text you.
No, he did not say, waiting for you. What you got for me? He's good. He's good. He created the world with one breath.
He's all right.
He's good.
Yeah.
And so that's the only change to our mission statement. That was after Isaiah was born. I kind of had a moment one day and I was with Dowd, and we were talking, and I'm like, that. The next thing we're going to tackle is the word special needs. Dowd's got it. She's got it all figured out. There is a really cool video going around the internet, and has been for years, and it's some adults with Down syndrome. It's the greatest video talking about.
Watch it. So she tells
Oh,
you
I
which
do think
one
there
it
might
is.
be 1 or 2 curse words in there, and I'll get you the link. You can post it below. It'll be posted below this video.
Children under the age of 11 that have never seen
Sorry,
movies
Major.
outside of PG. No, Major's actually heard seen
Okay,
some.
I'm shocked.
yeah,
That
well,
shocks me.
He
I
was in the
cannot
NFL
imagine.
locker room, so yeah, he's good.
He's good.
He's all right. Sorry, bad parent. Sorry.
And the video was adults with Down syndrome saying special needs. So having a special need would be having a dinosaur wake you up in the morning. That would be special.
You know what
Here's
my
my
special
favorite
would
part.
be? Especially I need some help.
Okay.
There's a dinosaur in my house.
That's the video. My favorite part was it would be special if you got a massage from a cat every day. And they actually literally have a cat needing. And I watched that video, and I will never forget. Dowd and I walked around Hilton Head this year, and I talked about the fact that I'm really uncomfortable with the term special needs, because truthfully, every single one of us has something that is unique and special about us that requires different needs in order for it to be fulfilled. And just because Isaiah's comes in the form of a diagnosis called Down syndrome, and the rest of us have it in some form, and you may be able to put a name or a number or a diagnosis on it, or you may not. But there is not a single person in this world that does not have at least one unique need that other people may or may not have. And Dowd and I talked about it, and I'm going to have to look up what we came up with. It's in my notes in my phone. It was like 6 words. I'm like, we're going to need to shorten this a little.
Yeah, that's too long.
We talked about it and we identified together. Dowd is so insightful with this stuff. And we talked about it doesn't just have to be kids who have a physical delay or an intellectual delay. What about kids with an emotional challenge? So there are kids that we serve at the All-Star Kids Clinic that do not have a specific diagnosis particularly, and it may just be that they have some sensory issues. They're not comfortable with some sensory things, or they may not communicate as well with others. We certainly have kids who have autism that are there, and those families have a diagnosis. But that would be kind of the next thing. And so out of the foundation, back to your question, which was, what are you most proud of? I am most proud that our children, that God gave them the capacity to love. I know why we have Isaiah. It's one of those funny things where you are trying to decide what your purpose in life is. I think we all spend, whether you believe in God or don't, I do believe that all of us are trying to decide, and if you're a believer, you're trying to decide, what did God put me here for? Like, what am I? And if you're not thinking, it probably should. Probably should. Think about it, because you're not just here for yourself. You're here to serve others.
Or you're trying to figure out why you're here.
Why are you here? And what is it? And what is it? Is there a thing? Is it multiple things? When Isaiah was born, one of the things that became intimately clear to me was that we needed that kid to teach us about what love looks like. What love looks like. My kid, I don't know, we got a kid that loves everyone, everything, all the time.
You still don't like being told no.
That's true. He doesn't like that.
Tell you
Just want to
something.
get that out right now.
I want to tell you
might
something.
love
I'm
other
48
people,
years
but
old.
I don't
Tell
like-
me no and see what happens. See if you don't get a stink face.
I just want everybody
from
to,
me.
yes, he loves well. I just had to jump in real quick. He is not perfect. He still does not like being told no. That's all. All right, now Mama, take back over.
That is true. I actually on my time feed this morning came a video, and it's one of the first times I ever had to spank Isaiah. And I think that video I also have. I don't think I was videoing when I spanked him, but right before I did, because Paul was on
That'd be
the
a little
road.
weird.
Right. Paul was on the road, and I had told him repeatedly not to touch the light sockets in his room. Repeatedly. And he did not care.
We don't hear no.
You know how it is too. When don't touch.
I kept saying,
Well, they
yes, yes. So that's what
And
was-
not
Okay.
just do it, but look at you belligerent.
So now let's teach Michelle something. Okay, so this is Golf Psychology 101 by Dr. Bob Rotello. I don't know why I just air quoted. Sorry, Doc. I don't know why I air quoted you there, but I'm quoting the next line. You never say don't. If you step up on 18 at TPC and you say don't hit it in the water, what does your mind hear? Hit it in the water. What do you usually do? Me, I hit it right of the mounds, right. I hit it the other side, which VJ used to think was funny. Every time he would bring up I was going to hit it in the water, I would hit it 75 yards on the other side of the water. He goes, "You're so stubborn that you won't not only not hit it in the water, you're going to hit it out of play the other side to make sure that you don't."
works in reverse psychology, though. I have had that moment.
So
as a caddy too.
Well, let's hear it. No, I
As
want
a
your
caddy,
story now.
when you
I
say
got too many stories.
when you say as a caddy, whatever you do, do not fire at this flag.
Yeah. Fire at this flag.
It's not there for any reason. Do not worry about the flag.
Do not
Don't worry
fire
about the
at
flag.
this flag.
Doesn't even have a
You
purpose.
already know what's happening.
Exactly. One of mine and Webb's favorite stories. But I think as people and even as kids, you don't touch that light socket. I just heard you say touch that light socket. Bonk.
Over and
Don't-
over again.
Do not eat that banana bread. Okay.
That's
Cookie.
That's not a child's story now. Now when we're talking about banana bread, we're talking about adults. So this video came up this morning, and it is October is Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and a lot of our really great friends post some super intellectually amazing things about Down syndrome. The most significant I saw yesterday from Nancy Tillman's daughter. She's Nancy Tillman, one of the best children's authors in the entire world, and Nancy has a granddaughter with Down syndrome, and her daughter posted something about those that came before us and who paved the way so that we can do what we're doing now with our kids. Just spectacular post. I'll post it. I'll give it to you. It was amazing. I asked her if I could steal it last night. She said, of course. Like, I'm too tired to come up with my own post every day, so I'm just going to need you. So I have not yet posted about Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and our foundation has, and Jenna's amazing. Thank you, Jenna. We love you. And she's been posting facts, and this morning it popped up in my feed. And it's Isaiah, and we're in his room, and the dog is behind us, and you can hear him doing his thing, shaking his head, and you can hear his collar. Paul noticed that this morning. We missed that dog, too. And sorry, Ryder. We love Hitch. Earmuffs.
You should see how offended he looks too.
It's a rough life. So I know what had happened leading up to that was I had warned him multiple times, and Paul and I had had in-depth conversations about whether or not we thought Isaiah understood, because he wasn't verbally able to tell us. He understood that he was being told what he could and could not do.
Right.
We had just gotten to a place where, as a parenting couple, we had agreed that now spanking him was a great solution. It didn't work very long, because then he started to hit himself or us. Like, oh, that's how we do that? And he would just slap us on the hand. And I'm like, oh, well, that
You know, since mommy and daddy not perfect,
Yeah.
Isaiah need to teach y'all a little lesson too.
He counted backwards a timeout for Ryder the other day. 3, 2, 1, place. No place. And I said to Paul, our kid just counted backwards to a timeout for our dog. So he's playing with the light socket. I warn him no, and it's one of the first times I've ever spanked him, ever. And I popped him on his hand hard. Our child does not have very much sensitivity to pain. It's spectacular. Cut off the top of his finger. He didn't really care. Really great parenting moment for me. And he got mad. And Isaiah doesn't get really mad very often.
Yeah.
And you could see it. He was about a year and a half old, and he got mad, and he's fussing at me. And at the time, he wasn't walking consistently, so he got around bear crawling, like legs straight, hands down, like the fitness bear crawl you do not want to do. And our kid takes off down the hallway, and I am videotaping him, and I'm like, you are really mad at mommy, and he's mad, and he is like, toddler growling at me. He takes off down the end of this hallway right here. I am laughing really loud on the video. He goes around the corner. I can't see him anymore. And he passes, we'd been playing with like bubble stuff. So he passes all the bubble things he'd been popping before that. He goes around the corner, he's gone. He's at the laundry room, and I yell, okay, bye-bye, Isaiah. And about 1 second later, bye. He waves. He's in the middle of being absolutely furious at me. And he comes right back around the corner, and he waves. That is what God gave us, that child who has taught us more about forgiveness, about love, about grace, about acceptance, about people, about John 9:13, and Paul can go into that. It's spectacular. That is what we've gotten from Isaiah, and we've been able to take that and give it to others here and expand it to other PGA Tour communities. So we get to do that in our daily lives. I wrote in the post this morning that I get that it's Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and it is so important, and we are huge advocates. But we get to celebrate that kid and what he brings to our lives every single day. I recognize we need to We have people at the door. Yep. So we recognize, and I'm like, well, people much smarter than me are posting much more significant things, and that's great, and I love them for doing it. So I'll just steal those people's stuff. And for us, it's recognizing that those simple little moments are exactly who our child has always been from the minute he was born. He did not cry when he was born. I asked. That's kind of how we knew something was going on. You read all these books.
Right.
And I yelled over at some point, like, what's his APGAR? So, like, 10 is perfect. 1 is, this is not good. And the nurse yelled back 8 or 9, and I'm like, but he's not. I feel like in the books, they cry, right? Don't
They're
kids cry?
supposed to.
He is smiling. I will show you a birth photo before you leave. He's smiling while he's laying on the table being weighed, smiling at birth. That is who God gave us in that child. And that means there was a huge hole in my heart I did not know needed to be filled. And that is what Isaiah has brought to us. I think to the folks on tour, that really cool kid has expanded every relationship we had on tour and introduced brand new ones. Jimmy Roberts and what he is doing for Valentino Dixon and all of that stuff. None of that happens unless Isaiah is born and people are engaged and interested in his story. And I think for Paul, the significance of the change, he worked for VJ for a long time, and that relationship with that player and how that affects your relationship with other people on tour is very, very different than working with Webb Simpson and what that relationship looks like with people on tour. But I think if you ask Paul, and I think I've heard him say this before, it's the birth of Isaiah that ultimately made him realize not only the love he just described, but that he is respected out there, that people genuinely care about him, even though those years with VJ were different. And that includes Tiger. We talked about it with Tiger at the Ryder Cup this year, the Tiger Who Hat. Tiger thinks telling the Tiger Who Hat story is the single greatest. He told it on the bus. Phil is dancing down the aisles of the bus. Paul has that video. It's fantastic. Phil and Amy, we love you. And I told him he could not post that video. So you're welcome. That is safe, I think.
You better hope I don't ever find out how to hack phones.
Yeah. So Tiger and Erica are sitting in front of us on the bus, and the entire ride to the airport from the hotel, heading to the Atlanta airport to take the charter flight over to Paris, Tiger is telling the Tiger Who Hat story.
Tiger's telling it.
Tiger's
now, for
telling
people who don't know, her husband lovingly wore a hat that said Tiger Who when he was caddying for
VJ Singh.
And it didn't work out as well as expected because they were playing against Tiger in the...
Well, and they were, I don't know which, I can't remember which event it was, but I can tell you it mustered over for years. And Tiger will tell you. And they remember specific, so Paul's back, now we have to ask him which event it was. He'll know, and I'm embarrassed I don't, because I've now heard this story, and I have to tell you, I've probably only heard the story once from Paul. I've probably heard it, I heard it from Tiger in a rain delay at Greenbrier. Every time we are with Tiger, he asks about two of the same things. He asks Paul about working out stuff, and he wants to know, he doesn't understand that I don't spend 20 hours a week at the gym, and he just wants to know where my free
But he
time
thinks
is.
so, though.
So fitness for him is spectacular and crazy. And I adore Erica, and she's great, so she and I will spend some time together. His favorite thing to talk about is the Tiger Who hat. And what's really cool about that is because he was so offended by it then, and now the relationship that he and Paul have, and it is fantastic. Paul won a bet. I think he won some money from Webb the first tournament back that Tiger played this year. And he bet Webb that Tiger was going to address him with a particularly non-child-friendly greeting. And
A loving brotherly.
brotherhood.
Yes, loving brotherly, probably rated R saying.
Rated R.
We all get that from a guy who, if we love him, if he loves you.
He loves you. And that's the difference, right? So when you start looking at those things, so it's those guys, those relationships that he's learned are genuine. So, hey, babe, so you got to tell the Tiger Who story now, because I just told them Tiger was retelling.
Well, let's tell the Paul Who story, because I left and nobody knew.
Somebody took your seat.
Ryder
Ryder answered two questions already. He was cool.